Does meditation help with running? Can meditation help you run faster? You may be a runner who laces up your shoes for the simple reason of getting in that mental clearing run to help you manage stress, improve your mood, and stay healthy. Or it could literally be the only time in your chaotic day that you have time to yourself. Welcome to episode 151 on the Healthy Runner podcast, where we help you get stronger, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury free running. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. As the sign behind me says, in all things, give thanks. And I am extremely grateful and thankful for you tuning into this episode today. And today's guest is Rebecca Doring, who is a runner, a meditation teacher, yoga instructor, and personal transformation coach. She helps people overcome daily stress and manage their inner critic so that they can get to know who they really are and go after and achieve the goals they want. A lifelong hiker and athlete, Rebecca always longed to know what it felt like to be a runner, but didn't think she could after slow and painful experiences running in high school. I think we could all relate to that. Years later, she discovered Couch to 5K and eventually Atomic Habits by James Clear and learned how to become a runner. Now she's in love with trail running and finds a beautiful opportunity to blend with yoga and meditation. Rebecca is also the host of the Deep Rooted Bliss podcast and the creator of the online meditation and self-development membership, Daily Roots. Thank you so much for accepting my invite to come on the show today, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel it's such an honor to be here.
Oh, guys. So in this episode, Rebecca is really going to teach us about what, why, and how we can introduce meditation into our training as runners. She will cover the benefits of meditation for runners, as well as take us through an example of what a short meditation session actually sounds like. So you can get a little taste tester for yourself. So this is going to be fun. Rebecca, on the show, we always start with a little dynamic warm up like we would before our runs to kind of get our bodies going. So I gave kind of your formal introduction, but if you can just tell the listeners, where you do call home and give us a little bit backstory on how you really gotten to this point in your running journey as well as your career.
Yeah, sure. So I call home Cornwall, Connecticut. And so I'm in the northwest corner of Connecticut, and I'm about a mile away from the Appalachian Trail, which I'm so grateful for. So there's lots of opportunity for hiking and running right where I am. Like you mentioned in my intro, I was not a runner in high school. I was not a runner for a long time. I had painful experiences in high school of never running before and then being expected to do a 1 mile run without any alignment training, nothing. And so then it just hurt. I was really slow and super embarrassed and walked away from that experience believing that I can't be a runner. I'm too slow and it hurts too much for me. And yet inside, I had a desire to know what it felt like to be a runner. I would look at my friends who were runners and I would see this sense of freedom that I imagined that they would feel in their body, this sense of strength and connection and freedom and oneness with their surroundings that I just longed to know what that felt like, not from the perspective of me who was not a runner and it was terribly painful and embarrassing, but from the perspective of a runner. And so that desire kind of just always pulled me towards running, even though I didn't make any logical sense. My mind had a lot of evidence telling me the contrary, that no, that's not for you. You're not good enough for that. You're not strong enough, you're not fast enough, you're not whatever enough. And over the years, I tried it a few times, like you mentioned in Couch to 5K, which that showed me that, wait a second, you're not supposed to just go from not being a runner to being a runner instantly. Your body needs to learn how to do that and learn how to do that well and have better form and ease into it. And so I started to feel what it could feel like to run without having to stop. But my mind wasn't there yet. My mind was still in that place of doubting myself, not believing in myself, believing me to be this slow, painful, non-athletic person, even though I actually was pretty athletic. But then kind of switching over into my career, I stumbled into the personal and spiritual development world, becoming a meditation teacher, a yoga teacher, doing a lot of personal development, and started really managing my own mind and learning how to clear out those stories that hold us back. Those stories about ourselves and about the world that cloud our vision of who we are, what we're capable of, and what the world is around us. And so that enabled me to come back to the running desire, that old desire. And it was pandemic when there was nothing else to do. Decided to pick up that couch to 5K again and literally ran back and forth in my driveway and got to a point where I could run without having to stop again. And then I simultaneously worked on shifting my identity and shifting into becoming a runner internally inside of my mind and believing that me, Rebecca Doring, can be a runner. And through that, I was able to release a lot of those stories and discover that I actually loved it. So I joined a road running club, and it was fantastic. And I started to immerse myself among other runners, even though I felt like I didn't belong at first, and realized that they all are totally welcoming. And they're like, no, 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 anyone can come in. Please come join us. We just want more people. We want to have a good time. And there I met a good friend of mine now, Nicole, who was a trail runner or is a trail runner. And she, as part of her training, would go out for hikes every week. And she invited me to go hiking with her since I was an avid hiker at the time. And as we were hiking, then she started telling me about trail running and telling me about these big races that she'd done. And I was so blown away. And the same thing happened, that inside, that desire nudged at me. She was telling me about a 50-mile race that she did. And I was like, 50 miles? That's insane. How does any one human being do that in one day? And I felt that same pattern, that inner desire that was like, I want to know what that feels like. I want to do that. And then the mental story saying, you can't do that. Are you crazy? You were never a runner in high school. Like, you only just started being able to run. How is this possible? But then through doing the same process, and she also believed in me, she's like, no, if you follow the training plan, it's totally possible. So then over the last 2 years, I worked towards that. And I did actually run my 50-mile race this year in September.
Oh my goodness. And yeah, congratulations to you. I heard about that on your podcast, and yeah, that's huge. That's very big, and I'm sure there's many runners out there that can relate to your story of having those negative thoughts and not believing they are a runner, right? And I didn't call myself a runner, till probably 3 or 4 years into my adult onset running journey myself. And that is common, that we do doubt ourselves. But it sounds like you really had this awakening moment where you did start actually believing that Rebecca Doring can be a runner.
Yeah.
And I just love how you've kind of blended that into kind of what you're doing now from a professional standpoint, because I did hear on your show that you were originally in the culinary world, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, which is like probably totally different, right, from what you do now, because I would imagine in the culinary world it's like super fast pace. I would imagine like very like go 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 go, versus what you're doing now and how you're helping folks with that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting because I had a dream of becoming a pastry chef in 8th grade. Like my 8th grade graduation, I got a KitchenAid mixer, which I still have. And it was like a dream that I thought for sure was going to be my destiny. And it was a very fast-paced, high-stress world that thrived on perfectionism, which I very much embodied. And it was a lot of those mental stories telling me, okay, this isn't good enough. This isn't perfect enough. This isn't, you need to be faster. You need to be, more precise, whatever the stories were. And that was actually a huge gift for me because it taught me a lot of resilience going to culinary school, taught me how to be a hard worker, taught me how to navigate those things. But yeah, now it's a complete opposite that I found, like the contrast of that, the struggle that provided me, of the inner stories and the not enoughness and all of that propelled me into the world that I'm in now. I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah, and it is just so nice to hear, people's backstory. I've been talking about this a lot, and a lot of the guests that we've had on the show recently, and you just like so many others, you've kind of pivoted and you've changed what you originally thought you were going to be doing. And I think there's so much that many out there can relate to in your story. And you know, the reason why I invited you to come on the show was because I did hear you on the Inspired Souls podcast. So, Carolyn Coffin and Kim Senecal are friends of the Healthy Runner podcast, and they've been on the show before. And, I listened to that episode shortly after, and I shared this once or twice on the podcast, not a lot. So, for those who haven't listened to every episode, this might be new news to you. But last spring, I had kind of a little cardiac scare. And, turns out after like, a full day in like the chest pain center at Yale, it was a panic attack. And, I heard your episode shortly thereafter where I really realized that, okay, Duane, like you're going to literally burn yourself into the ground if you keep going at 1000%. Right. So, my actual therapist had recommended, meditation as a way to kind of start to shut things down and be able to do more self care, right? Things on
Mm.
how I actually take care of my body and my mind, my spirit, everything. And I heard your episode and it was like just perfect timing. And also at that time, I was also reading Atomic Habits. And then I know when you had mentioned, that book, by James Clear, I was like, oh my goodness, like this is just weird how like the world works and everything's like coming together at the same time. So, this has been a long time in the making to have you come on the show, and I appreciate your patience. And, I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about, how meditation can be something that we can integrate as runners into, honestly, our training. When we look at training as for health, our running, our life, right? Because if we don't have any of that, then we're not running. So yeah, I'm looking forward to get into all this. And then before we get into kind of the meditation topic, I am curious to hear, so this was a 50-mile race that you did, not a 50K. This was like a 50-mile trail race that you did.
Yes.
And did you
Yes.
previously ever do like a marathon?
Not really, no.
Yeah. So how did this trail race go for you?
It was amazing. It was such a journey. There were Interestingly enough, this is actually a really good transition because the biggest struggle that I faced was a mental struggle. And my body did amazingly well, and I'm really excited about that. And but I also realized with these types of races, anything can happen depending on the day, depending on all the different factors. But in this case, my race, I had this planned. I fully did not believe that I could actually do it, even though I knew that there was no way to find out other than just going for it. And I knew that, okay, let's just do this and see what happens. If I don't make it, then I have all this new information and I can take that with me into my training for the next time. But I went into this training, or I went into this race prepared for a lot of obstacles, prepared for all the physical things, prepared for all the nutrition and the hydration and all of that stuff. And everything was going very smoothly. And then I think I had miscalculated on calories a little bit, which sent me into a mental low that then just hung on. And my whole body was feeling incredible during this one moment where there was like very little pain. I felt a lot of capability to run, yet my mind was in a super dark place. And in that time, I'm so grateful for all of my meditation practice and all of the work that I do because I used it 100% to go into that moment fully, get through it, but also enjoy it at the same time, which I think only a runner can understand that in that those dark places there is there is space to enjoy that as well. And that really enabled me to do it. And it wasn't until about maybe mile 47 when I realized that I could actually do this thing. And so then in that moment, then my spirit started lifting, and my body felt even stronger. And about like the last 5 miles, I felt the best. And it was such a joy and such a high. And I was so grateful at the end for having pushed through that low, or made it through that low, so that I could discover all of the joy and all of the abundance and all of the belief in myself on the other side.
Wow. Yeah. Congratulations to you. That's just very remarkable. And it is, I think there's so many of us runners that can relate to when we have those low points in a race. And then we get the negative thoughts that creep in our head and start questioning things. Um, I just recently did my first marathon in 5 years at Hartford this year, and I had some struggles that were more physical struggles um, going on with my GI system that has never happened at a race,
Mm.
which in reflection was some underlying anxiety that was happening that I didn't realize. And, I wasn't nervous for the race and I felt prepared and all of that. I put in the training. Um, but it did wreak havoc on my GI system. And I had to, be able to pull from some of the strategies and from some of the novice work that I've been getting into in terms of kind of, mental strategies and mindset and meditation. And that's really what got me through the whole race. So it wasn't my physical capabilities. It was definitely more the mental, um, tips, strategies, tricks, everything that I was kind of pulling on, and the mental strength that I was kind of implementing in my training that pulled me through that. So yeah, kudos to you. That's pretty amazing though.
Thank you so much.
Will
Yeah.
will you go back for seconds is the question.
Yes, I
You
will.
will. Okay.
I will. I mean, it's now almost 2 months later, and definitely 100% I'll go back. If you asked me the day after, I would have said, I don't know. I don't know about this. But yeah, now I definitely want to do another one next year.
Yeah, awesome. Very cool. So let's get into this meditation and running topic. And if I asked this question um, 9 months ago, a year ago, I honestly wouldn't have known the answer. So I'm sure there are probably many runners right now who don't really know what meditation is. So, what is meditation actually?
Yeah, I love this question because we hear about meditation a lot in, especially right now with the mental health discussion that's going on. We hear that word thrown around a lot. But what meditation is it's simply using your focus to bring your mind into a different state, to bring your mind into a different state of consciousness, which then in turn brings your physiological state into a different state, a more relaxed state. So it's using your mind to do so rather than listening to music, or we have there's a lot of misconception about what meditation is and is not, that a lot of us believe that, oh, just sitting and coloring is meditating. Or what I hear probably the most is from the running community, that, oh, running is my meditation. And there is a difference in here, which we'll go into a little bit more in a little while, I imagine. But we can run mindfully, but that's not the same as a meditation. Where a meditation, we're giving the mind a chance to bring our physical state into a state of relaxation, which we can't be in a state of relaxation while we're running. So it's a key difference. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. So we're using the mind to really allow the body to essentially go into this relaxation state
pretty
and
much. Yeah.
kind of shut down a little bit if we're like me, like always on the go, go, go. As my mom said when I was younger, I always had ants in my pants.
Mhm.
So always on the go. And yeah, I would agree with some of my introductory practice into this world. It has been super helpful at doing that and allowing things to actually like shut down and start to unwind a little bit. So, why would meditation be good for runners specifically?
Yeah, I mean, especially with my more recent experience with running, I fully believe that meditation for runners is so incredible if we give ourselves the opportunity to learn how to do it and to realize that it can be for us. Especially since I think the running community might be more type A, more go, 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 more fast paced, busier mind, all of those things that seem to be in such contradiction to what we might believe meditation to be, this like Zen, relaxed, slow process. So, did you lose me? Did I lose you?
Yeah, I don't know. It does say lost connection to server, attempting to reconnect.
Let me just no, my Wi-Fi is good. All right. Well, Zencaster is usually pretty good at recording the whole time. But as long as you can hear me and see
Let
me, then
me
we're probably okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It is. Let me just see. I know it's not even letting me pause. So I wonder if
Oh,
this is like
reconnected.
the
We're good.
20-minute mark. All right.
Oh yeah. Okay. I got it. So, meditation is actually incredible for runners because of what I just described with my 50-mile experience and what you described with your marathon experience. That if we're running, and especially if we're racing, we're going to experience mental struggles. And we know that a lot of times, even when there's physical issues, it's the mental game that we need to pull on. It's the mental strength that we want to go into. So learning how to do that in the calmness of a seated meditation practice, number one, is really amazing. It's kind of like learning how to practice martial arts. You don't go into a fight learning how to do it. Instead, you go into the calmness of a martial art studio and you learn the moves and you get practiced at the moves in the calmness and the peace of that environment. And then come time for a fight, your body just does it. So, in that sense, practicing taking your focus from somewhere else, like a wandering mind, and bringing it into a specific focus, like your breath or your body, and doing that over and over again while you're seated is one way to strengthen that muscle so that when you're in the heat of a race and your mind is wandering, questioning everything, telling you you're not going to be able to do this, you can say, okay, I hear you. Now we're going to instead focus on this. We're going to shift gears. We're not going to let those thoughts control and sabotage the outcome of this moment. Secondly, is the most basic benefits, the most basic way to describe what meditation does is that it releases stress in the simplest of terms. Every time you sit down, close your eyes, and begin to meditate, your body gets to work on releasing built up stress. And when we have built up stress, that creates patterns in the body, oftentimes in like the physical body, our muscles, our tissues, right? If you think about a time when we're really stressed or we're really upset, chances are our posture is affected. Shoulders are hiked up near the ears. If we get into a fight, then our body's rounded over, like protecting our chest. And that stress gets stored in the tissues. And then that pattern can affect us when we're trying to run. And then when we're running in this imbalanced pattern, not in, better alignment, then we're more likely to have injury. So just in that sense, we're able to release these patterns of stress on the body so that we're free to run in a natural way.
And that sounds amazing for runners, right? And I think you are right in your assertion. At least many of the runners I come in contact with are typically type A, and we like following plans and we like getting achievements, whether it is we ran faster, we hit a PR, we ran the longest distance we've ever run. We like seeing numbers in like a training plan. And I do think that it helps kind of ground us a little bit, and maybe take a little bit of that kind of perfectionism back and start to appreciate things a little bit more, as well as allow you to not be as stressed and make sure you can deal with adversity that we get as runners And just like my marathon experience, just like your experience, as you said, and there's so many others. So yeah, and again, just being a rookie here, I'll call myself into starting to implement meditation. It definitely does help feel better, right? You feel less stress, and it is tough because it's always that, and I always find myself struggling with this. Um, Maybe you can give me some tips that you give your clients. Is you have X, Y, and Z to do on your to-do list, and time is ticking, right? So do you take the time out to meditate? Because I'll always tell you, and I haven't yet integrated this into my workday, and I know it would be beneficial for me because every time I do my meditation as I start my wind down routine at night now, um, I feel better. And I'm like, I should probably like do that during the day because I'm sure it'd like reset me where I'd have such better mental clarity. But honestly, it hasn't happened yet because I'm always like in a time crunch and running from this, appointment to this appointment, and or, everything's kind of scheduled out. Do you have any tips for that?
Yes, yes, 100%. You're not alone. This is such a normal experience. And it's interesting. So the first thing that I want to offer is that we experience different we experience time differently depending on if we are in a stressed state or in a calm state. So when we are in a stressed state, we experience time in a more of a scarce way. So if you think about even just experiencing moments where if your hand is on a hot stove and you pull the hand off the hot stove, that one split second can feel like the longest split second, versus a time when you're really enjoying and you're relaxing. Time kind of just slips away. If you're lost in a flow state, if you're a creative person and you like to play music or paint, time kind of just melts away. And so time itself, even though we believe it to be linear, is not necessarily. We just experience it differently depending on where we are inside. So the biggest way to feel like you have more time is to sit for a meditation practice. Now, the logical mind will fight with you and say, no, no, no. I have all of these tasks to do and they all take this much time. Sitting for 5 to 10 to 20 minutes and not doing anything is not productive. I can't do that. So instead, what I use to speak to that logical piece of my brain in that moment is to ask myself, if I sit down for even 5 minutes, how will that benefit the rest of the day, my experience of the rest of the day? And this is a tricky question to answer when you're first getting started in your meditation practice because you haven't yet experienced personally the good effects of it. But the moment you do, excuse me, the moment you do, then stick that into your brain and remember, like you were just saying, that when you meditate at night, you feel so much better. So when that logical brain comes in and says, we don't have time for this, say, hey, how will it feel to get through this really busy schedule feeling better versus feeling stressed right now? Well, that might be more enjoyable. That might propel me to sit down. And B, what if I then feel like I have more time because I'm in a more calm state and I can relax and I can see things clearly and I can be more focused and get more things done? I kind of just make a case to that part of my brain. I prove with evidence and arguments to that part of my brain, saying, no, 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 this is going to be good for us. This will make us feel so much better.
I love it. Yeah. I hear you 100%. And I hope that I can implement that into my schedule. And this is something that we actually talked about in a previous episode. I had on a guest that
Nice.
really talked about self-care for runners. And Amy Mangetta, she had talked about taking baby steps, right? And not needing to be perfect. Because again, right, like our perfectionism, like we want to like master it. We want to like crush it, right? We want to, do this meditation thing. So I'm trying to have grace with myself and the fact that I have implemented, even if it is only some days, maybe it's been like 2 or 3 minutes, but 5 or 10 minutes is the most that I've done so far at night as I wind down. And hopefully I will be able to implement that into my midday practice as well. So stay tuned. I'll have to follow up with you to see how I'm doing there.
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
um, so how do we actually, meditate? Like, what do we need to do to meditate?
Yeah. So the way to meditate is I always love to equate it to the physical, especially to runners. But if you think about going to the gym and you first start lifting weights, you don't have the strength to go after the big weights just yet. You go for the small weights. And every time you lift a weight, you're building strength in that muscle. Then gravity is going to kick in, you lower the weight down, then you lift the weight up. The same thing applies to meditation. We're just strengthening a different muscle. We're strengthening our muscle of focus. And so we all know that we have an awareness, right? The awareness tends to naturally go towards the loudest thing. So if there's a bang in a cafeteria, then all the heads whip over to that loud sound, right? If your mind is telling you of all the things you have to do today, then your focus is going to be there. If there's a pain in your body, your focus is just going to be there. So what we do in meditation is to take that focus on the thing that's loudest and then bring it to something simple, an object to focus on, such as the feeling of your breath or the feeling of your body. And then something loud is going to distract you. A thought or a sensation or a distraction in your environment is going to pull your focus away, and then you bring it back. So it does not matter that your focus went away. In fact, it's actually good because it provides an opportunity to build the strength. Just like if you were just to hold a weight in your arm at a top of a bicep curl and just hold it there, you're not really building a lot of strength. The way you build strength is to let it release and then pull it up. So, the same thing with meditation. Every time your mind wanders, it gives you an opportunity to strengthen your focus and bring your attention back.
Mm, I like that. I like that. And that does make me feel better as someone who does have that mind that is always thought here, thought there, right? And is constantly going, I feel like. So again, just having some grace with yourself that, hey, this is kind of normal. And hopefully over time, I can strengthen that focus and strengthen that focus muscle, we'll call it, to
Yeah.
kind of stay in that like present state.
Well, and also a second piece to this that's really important to understand is that the second we sit down and meditate, like I mentioned, the body starts to release stress. And when it's releasing stress or tension, that stimulates the nervous system. And when our nervous system is stimulated, we think a lot. So every time you sit down and meditate, you might start to focus on the breath and think, okay, this feels kind of nice. Like, all right, I can do this. I'm starting to feel a little calm. And then you get a wave of thought. And your mind is taken away and you're thinking about your to-do list or what you're going to have for lunch that day or whatever. And then you're thinking, oh no, like I'm not meditating anymore. But what just happened was you sat down, started to feel good, your body was releasing stress, which stimulated your nervous system, triggering a wave of thought. So that wave of thought means that you just released stress. You are lighter now. You did the practice correctly. And
Mm.
now your job is to then bring your focus back to the breath so that you can release more stress. And so the difference between a thought-filled meditation, one where your mind is just racing the whole time, and a deep meditation where it's more calm and focused, it's just a matter of how much stress there is to release. And once you've released enough stress, then it'll get quiet. I have thought-filled meditations now, and I have deep meditations now. It just depends on how much stress I'm carrying around. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it doesn't necessarily correlate that you're going to, as you continue to practice, that you're never going to have like thought-filled meditations, that even you, right, an expert in this area, like you continue to have thought-filled meditations. And it just relates to the level of stress that you're currently undergoing. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right. So you alluded to this before, and I get this a lot when runners reach out to me. I work with primarily runners who are struggling with a common injury such as IT band syndrome, plantar fasciitis, and I always make sure before they're ready to invest in working with me and getting kind of the structure, support, accountability, all of that to get over their injury and back to running. I asked them, like, why is running important to you? And the overwhelming response is that most runners say, well, I just love running, and either they need to get out there 4 days a week to get in their mental clearing runs, to relieve stress. It's their, mental sanity time, that it's the only time that they're alone, right? Especially for busy working moms. And I also get that, running is my meditation. And you alluded to that before, that it is different, right, than kind of true meditation. So can you actually meditate during a run?
Mm, this is a great question, and I'm so excited to chat about this. Yeah, so there are immense stress relief that comes from running. Like, we know this. And there's a difference between running and meditating versus running mindfully. And so when we experience those moments that feel like a meditative state, in that you're in the flow and maybe the world gets a little quiet and maybe you feel a little more one with your body or your surroundings, or the stress that your mind was focusing on just melts away, that would be more a flow state. That would be more a mindful state. And mindfulness is a type of meditation in that you can meditate using a mindfulness technique, but then we can be mindful out in our activities, which basically means that we're not lost in the past or the future. We're here in this moment. We're present. We're mindful about this moment. We're aware of the aroma or the sensations of our body or the feeling of this moment. We're aware acutely of this moment. And so that's the mindful practice that I find is an amazing and very beneficial thing to use intentionally in a run, where I think if we don't realize that we have that power, we might go out for a run hoping to get into that state and fall into it, but we can do it intentionally. And through me guiding you all through a meditation in a little bit, I'll explain a little bit more about how to do that in your run. Um, but the difference between a seated meditation and a running meditation is just that when we're seated and meditating, you have the ability to take your physical body into a state of relaxation where you don't have that ability when you're running. So that's why when we say, like, oh, running is my meditation, it's not really. It's kind of like me sitting in my meditation practice, visualizing myself running and saying, oh, my meditation practice is my running workout. You would think, like, okay, well, you're not really getting the full benefits of it if you're sitting there thinking that just imagining it is the same. So having both is, I think, really beneficial for a runner. But at the very least, starting with some mindful practices while you're running can be an amazing entry point. And furthermore, which kind of brings me to this one more point that I had meant to share earlier, is that one of the best reasons to meditate as a runner is so that you can enjoy running more. Like, as simple as that. You can enjoy the whole experience, enjoy the moment, enjoy your body, enjoy why you're out there in the first place. Find joy in the hard moments too, and just have a richer, fuller experience.
I love it, and have some, gratitude almost for what you are going through, whether it is a hard run, an easy run, it's a gorgeous day outside, or it's pouring rain and you're sopping wet, right? That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So I would love for you to give us an example of, meditating. And, is this something that we're going to do as a seated practice, or could someone do this during a run?
Yeah, so I would love to guide you through something that we'll do seated together since we're both sitting.
Hmm.
And for anyone listening, if you happen to be sitting and listening to this, then try it out seated and just see what it's like. But I also encourage you to try out listening to this while you're running. So if you're running right now, then come back and listen to this when you're seated. But see what it's like to be guided through a more mindful experience while you're running. So this can be both. This can be the meditation practice that can allow you to release stress and come into a more relaxed state. And then this can be a mindful running experience to help you be more in the present moment, be more in your body, and experience your running through that lens.
I love it. All right, let's do it.
All right. So if you are sitting, the best way to do it is to just sit on a chair, a regular chair. Slide your back up against the chair. Place your feet flat on the floor. Place your hands comfortably in your lap. And what I'm going to do is basically just guide your focus, like we were describing earlier, around your body just to feel. So I'm not asking you to do anything with what you notice, just become aware, just observe, like you're getting curious about where I'm directing you to. And this will allow you to become a little bit more connected and in tune with your body. So at first, if you don't feel so much, that's okay. Over practice, over time, you'll become more aware of more. So wherever you are, close your eyes. We're going to start by taking 3 deep breaths, in through the nose and out through the mouth. So together, let's breathe in through the nose deeply. Exhale through the mouth with a bit of sound like you're sighing. Again, breathe in a little deeper, maybe a little slower. Exhale, let it go slowly, dragging out the sound. Last time, breathe in as deeply as you can now. Feel the breath coming into your body, expanding your lungs and your abdomen. Exhale, let it all go, allowing your shoulders to melt down your back, the muscles of your jaw to unclench. Close the lips, breathe normally in and out of the nose now, and become aware of the sounds around you, seeking out the most distant sounds. And rather than trying to decipher these sounds, just float from one sound to the next like a radar beam. Bring your attention to closer sounds just around you, the sound of your own body, your breath, maybe your heartbeat. Now become aware of the feeling of your body against the ground, against the chair, the point of contact of your body to the solid ground. Become aware of the feeling of your feet, curiously exploring what you notice about your feet. Observe your lower legs, your shins, your calves. If there is discomfort, can you get more curious? Can you describe it in your mind? I notice tightness or heat, coolness, tingliness. Observe your knees. Observe your thighs. Become aware of your hips and your pelvis, the pure sensation of your hips and your pelvis. Become aware of your abdomen, the 4 walls of your abdomen, the back wall, the side walls, the front wall, the organs inside. Become aware of your rib cage moving with your breath gently, softly. Become aware of your shoulders. Observe your arms, your hands, forearms, upper arms. Notice your neck. Observe your head, your scalp. Is there any way to soften the muscles of your scalp, your eyes, your jaw? Now expand your awareness to observe your whole body together. Feel your body as one whole unit, glowing in your mind's eye, sitting or moving in this space. And finally, rest your focus on the tip of your nose, feeling the pure sensation of your breath on the tip of your nose. As your mind and your focus wanders, recognize that it's wandered and bring your attention back to the nose, observing the coolness of your inhale, the warmth of your exhale. Softly let go of this focus. Keeping the eyes closed, just become aware of how you feel now and gently blink your eyes open when you're ready. All right, thank you.
Wow, I'm a lot more relaxed. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's amazing the power of just a few minutes, right?
It is. It is. Oh my goodness. And yeah, if someone was looking to just get a couple minutes like that, do you have any specific trainings, resources that you've created that someone can get those?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a meditation that you can have access to, and it's free. I call it an inspiration meditation, but it's kind of similar to what we just did, and it would be a beautiful transition to also listen to while you're running because it taps into the energy of your body, and it could be a beautiful practice either way. So I can offer you a link to that. Um, for you, it would be deeprootedbliss.com/inspiration.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. I'll
Yeah.
definitely put that in the show notes. And the final, question we asked all our guests, it's kind of like the final stretch here. If you could change, one thing about the misconception of meditation, what would that be?
Mm. It would be that meditation is not only for Zen people. That I think so often we look at meditation practitioners and we assume that you need to be Zen in order to meditate. I felt that way. And I was very far from Zen. And then when we come to do it, we realize that those people that we see as Zen are merely Zen because they've meditated. They might have been just as worked up and tightly bound as we feel inside, and it's just a practice that is really available to anyone with a human brain and the ability to think. Because as you just experienced, if you have the ability to notice your awareness and move it, then you have the ability to meditate. And just the learning process of a meditation is a little bit counterintuitive in that we start to immediately judge ourselves for thinking, and we worry that we're thinking too much in order to get the benefits of it. But when we realize that even when you're thinking, you're getting the benefits of it, and we realize that it's so much simpler than we think, then it becomes a beautiful practice to really help you connect to your own inner strength and your own inner wisdom and the truth, the desires that are present inside of you that might contradict with those mental stories. Like coming full circle about my story, I had the desire to run, even though I had no evidence telling me that I could, and a mental story telling me the absolute opposite of it. And this practice has the ability to help us believe in ourselves no matter what those stories are and untangle those stories.
Oh, I love it. And I would agree because that, in terms of misconception, is exactly what I thought as well. And so this has been, and I love how you always talk about on your podcast as well, like being curious. And this has been something that I am becoming more and more curious and like looking to explore. So thank you for kind of honestly introducing me to this from myself listening to your show, but then also sharing this with our healthy runner community. And, just if you guys are, taking all this in, just to kind of recap here, Rebecca really shared with us how we can, incorporate meditation into our training as runners. And we talked about what meditation is, why is it good for runners. So if you are one, a skeptic still after today, and you're saying, you don't really want to calm down that much, or just think about the performance benefits that you could have if you could focus a little bit more during hard runs or during a race setting, right? And if you're able to tap into some of that, and I know there has been, we didn't get into this, but there is research, right, that shows like performance enhancing benefits. And I think you would probably, expect, I would imagine most elite runners at that level, they incorporate meditation into their training. So why not us mere mortals as recreational runners, do the same? So yeah, I'm sure there's going to be many runners who really resonated, with your message here today, Rebecca. Enjoyed your meditation, loved your soothing voice. How can our healthy runner community connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to just add one final thing, kind of piggybacking onto what you just shared, that this is how I got into meditation and got through the skepticism and the logical mind telling me all the things that it was saying is conduct your own experiment. Don't just listen to me blindly. Don't take my word for it or decide just take it as an experiment, try it out, see what it's like, because who knows, you could discover a new experience of joy and expansion in your own running practice. But the only way to find out is if you do so yourself. So a way to find me is my podcast, the Deep Rooted Bliss podcast. I'm on Instagram, Rebecca Doring Meditation, and grab that free meditation, the inspiration meditation, at www.deeprootedbliss.com/inspiration.
Perfect. And I will certainly put all those links in the show notes. Yeah, this has been great. It's great to meet you, even though you're here in the state of Connecticut. We're in the same region. It's nice to meet you virtually, and hopefully at one point we'll meet in person as well. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. This has been such a joy being on here. So grateful.
Yeah, likewise. And thank you to the listener, whether you're listening during your run, watching the video version on the Spark Healthy Runner YouTube channel. I appreciate all of you. And again, I'm wishing you and your families a very happy Thanksgiving. As always, runners, let's maintain a strong mind, a strong body, and let's just keep on running. Until next time.